10 years, a group of serial killers stalked California's coast. During this time, police recovered the remains of multiple young men along the shore.
Devin, you home?
Hello, Ronan. How are you doing?
Good. How are you, Howard?
I'm not too bad, thanks. Thanks very much for speaking to me. I appreciate it.
Oh, man, my pleasure, dude.
So congratulations on the movie, first of all. It's already released over in the US. How's it been going?
It's kind of surreal. People really love it. I literally yesterday we hit like a 96% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's one of those movies where I think critics are gonna tear it apart, but fans are gonna love it. But we're also getting some good reviews.
What is that? I don't know. Some freak's been sending me this stuff.
I think you could almost label it more of a drama than a horror. I think it falls more into the drama thriller area than a full-blown horror. Because the first, I would say, 70% of the film is pretty much, it's a character-driven drama. So I think people will catch on eventually.
Your character, for example, reminded me a lot of A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, where you play a scream queen in a way. And when I was speaking to Bret the other day, he said that thankfully he was able to choose who was the lead, and you stood out for him because you played it really quietly and sadly, and he really appreciated it, and he wished that he'd actually written it more in that style than how he'd written it initially. Did he talk to you about that?
No, I did not know that. He just, he was very appreciative of how I approached the character, but I didn't know the details.
You were still struggling with depression. You kind of reeled back any kind of jock personality, whereas I don't think he had that idea in mind at first. What was it that made you decide to take it that way?
Well, it was doing research on people with depression, especially someone that goes off their medicine. The medicine specifically that he was on sort of regulates your emotions and it numbs you, but from the outside world, you sort of come off more normal, but on the inside, you're actually extremely numb. So I think once he went off his medicine, he was able to feel everything. And a lot of people that deal with depression, their energy is sort of lower. Their excitement levels are a little lower. Everything's a little bit lower on pretty much across the board. So I wanted to really capture that essence of someone that, if you noticed, I was very specific with when Jake gets truly excited, and it was with his bike. I sort of felt like the bike was a supporting character. The bike, he felt really good, and you could see almost relief on his face when he was on his bike, and it was almost a moment of peace for him when he was on his bike. Obviously with Karen, because she understands him, she wants to be there for him, and then his friend, who's played by Garrett Coffey. I think that was a really special relationship that I wish we almost saw more of, because he's able to make Jake laugh and show signs of happiness and excitement. So I was very meticulous with when I would make Jake, a bit above the spectrum of depression.
It's a subject that you've got to be careful with, because a lot of people who do suffer depression, I mean, obviously it's a piece of fiction, like all films, but at the same time, you want to be respectful for these kind of people a lot of people who watch horror films actually do watch horror films as a kind of catharsis in a way.
Exactly, yeah. And, I sort of approach every role with, a sense of realism and just grounding the character, and I think maybe that's the thing that Bret was talking about. I really wanted to ground the character because I felt the elements around Jake were so heightened and so stylized. I thought it would be a cool sort of contrast if Jake was sort of in his own little world, which he is, and then everything around him was this stylized horror film. And I think that was pretty effective because, everything around him is sort of out of control, and in his mind he's a little bit out of control as well. But I really wanted to separate Jake's little world in his head from the rest of the film.
When I was watching the film, I've got the feeling that the killer targeted your prototype, but not just the physicality, but also because of the problems you're going through, with depression and your meds. I felt as though they were targeting people that would help them get away with it, in the sense that if somebody's found drowned or whatever, then they could chalk it up to depression. And at the same time, when you're talking to your girlfriend, talking to Mia's character, she chalks it up as if because you're off your meds, there's no stalker. It's all in your head. Was that how you approached it? Did you see it like that when you approached the role?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they did their research, because from sort of that cat and mouse aspect to it, with the text messaging and leaving all the stuff on the bed and on the wall, I think they knew that my people around me would sort of just be like, oh, he's just paranoid, he's having one of his fits.
No.
So it does seem like the killers would do their research on their prey. But I think that was Bret's personal take on it. There's like none of that, exists in the evidence of the actual theory. I think that was Bret's own sort of way of creating a story about this theory, which I think is super effective, because it does make sense that in the end, his girlfriend and even his best friend could be like, oh, well, maybe he committed suicide, or maybe, he took too much pills or whatever.
Someone's been messing with my phone.
Did you send these to yourself?
He's going through some manic phase.
Jake!
I also spoke to Crispin as well the other day.
Yeah.
That must have been quite tricky to work with Crispin, because he was on the other side of the planet, no? Most of the time.
Yeah, I saw him maybe twice on set, and it was like going to get coffee. And then the other time I saw him preparing to put the prosthetic on, which was, it was gnarly. It was like 6 to 8 hours every time. So
that was all he's doing. He wanted to go take it as far as he could, no? Because he wanted to go total Lon Chaney all the way, no?
Yeah, Lon Chaney all the way, exactly. He wanted to approach it from an old school way, which was really brilliant. I've never even heard of Lon Chaney. I know of his work, but I didn't know specifically of the method that he used. So it was really brilliant to sort of hear about Crispin's method and all the past interviews that he's been doing. I've been learning a lot about sort of how they approached prosthetics back in the day. And it's so much easier to just stick a prosthetic on your face right now. It might take a couple hours, but he really wanted it to go old school with pulling the face and having control of where the droop is. And it was so cool, and I think very effective, because that is a fucking scary character.
Oh yeah.
It's a very scary character. I would see that down the line being like a Halloween costume for sure.
And did you do any research into the myth or the theory? Because Bret, he said he wasn't interested in the myth at all. He said no, because there's no proof that it's real. So he was just interested in telling the story because it was an intriguing story for him.
I quickly read about the theory, just to see what was even happening. But it wasn't until last year when there was a documentary called The Smiley Face Killer Theory that came out on Oxygen, I believe. And that was actually very insightful. And that was much more specific about, the actual cases and about the actual victims. So yeah, but then again, it really is Bret's take on this, theory or conspiracy theory. He sort of took this little idea and just made it his own.
Obviously, lockdown, everything's up in arms. We don't know what's going to happen. I know you've got 911 Lone Star, I know the series. Yeah. Is there anything else that you've got in prep that you can maybe tell us about, or that you'd like to?
Oh man, I don't know if I can handle any more stuff right now. It's been knock on wood, it's been I think the busiest, most productive year of my career. I've been very blessed with having 2 films come out and this gigantic TV show that I still sort of can't believe I'm even a part of. And we're shooting season 2. Knock on wood, people are healthy, everything's going forward smoothly. So I would like to for it to be one job at a time right now, and then hopefully in between seasons, if that happens, I'd love to always work, but right now I'm very much focused on
the series,
art.
right?
It's a big show. It takes a lot out of me. My character, again, it's a lot of mental issues and a lot of physical issues. So it's they really like to throw me into these situations. So
I think you like to throw yourself in the situations too, now by the sounds of it.
I do, and it's fun. But on the weekends, I'm like this. I can't move. So it's all good.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time, Ronen. I really appreciate it, and I wish you the best of luck with the film and also with the series.
Thank you, Howard.
I hope to speak to you again sometime soon.
Absolutely.
All right, take care of yourself. Thanks so much for your time.